Present. Present. We're going to jump to that agenda item, a public comment about the location. And we'll still have public comment about the location when we get to that, the rest of that agenda item. Are there any public comments about the location? I know I have Mr. Maxwell. I have Kevin Maxwell with some comments. And if there's someone else that wants to comment now or later, if you'd fill one of these cards out and give them to our clerk, Cassie, please. Mr. Maxwell.
Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity to be able to voice my concerns about the proposed location for the Oklahoma County Jail. I'm a lifelong resident of Northeast Oklahoma City, born and raised in Northeast Oklahoma City, very active in the community there in Northeast Oklahoma City. It's disappointing to hear that there's going to be a jail literally in my backyard. Me and my wife recently bought property and built a home in Northeast Oklahoma City. We're situated right between the two locations. The reason that it's concerning to me is that I think the best use for the land would be for community, building up the community, and not a constant reminder to our children when we drive past it every day to take them to school that that's the county jail, and it's situated right here in our neighborhood. It's also sad to know that both of those locations have relatively been vacant for a while. I know the one at 50th has been vacant for a while, and the best resource or the best opportunity to put something there is a county jail. It's very, very disappointing to hear that. The location at Northeast 10th Street, my grandparents literally live right around the corner from that facility in Garden Oaks. I've spent a lot of time in the neighborhood. I know Northeast Oklahoma City probably better than anybody in this room. It's also disappointing that when it comes time to make decisions about structures going up that aren't community involved, we seem to be pretty quick about getting those type of things done. Yet we went years and years and years without a grocery store in Northeast Oklahoma City, a full-scale grocery store. So I would be remiss if I didn't take this opportunity to voice my concerns. I hope it has value to those of you that will be making the decision. And I want you to understand is that Northeast Oklahoma City is not a dumping ground for facilities and other wasteful opportunities that other neighborhoods don't want. I mean, I know no one wants a jail in their neighborhood. I don't dismiss that. But I also understand that there's other opportunities up to and including maybe right there adjacent to the building that is already there in downtown Oklahoma City. So I just ask that you take strongly my concerns and my feelings about Northeast Oklahoma City. Northeast Oklahoma City is dear to my heart. It raised me. The community raised me. And so it would be very, very disappointing to see a jail structure go up in the neighborhood that I literally rode my bike in as a kid around those exact areas. So I thank you for your time. I know there's other people that want to voice their concerns as well. But I thank you for your time, and hopefully you'll take my comments and concerns into consideration. And if you'd like to have further dialogue with me, I'd welcome that as well. Thank you for your time. I appreciate it.
Mr. Maxwell, thank you.
Thank
And
you.
community input actually does matter to us. And we understand that for the residents of that area, you'd like to see community built versus driving by a jail every day. I understand exactly. Thank you, sir. Our next speaker is Deanne McDaniel, I think. Hi, Ms. McDaniel. Hey, welcome.
Diane McDaniel. I really want to say, first of all, thank you all. This is my second visit. I thank you all for listening. JFK neighborhood is a community-based, fun-loving community. We now have engaged buildings with OU students living in the Douglas, and we're coming together as a community and to include the county jail in that community. It takes away the whole value, the whole structure, the whole idea and premise of what a community should look like. And I would really like for you all to consider, seriously consider, that you all will change that. You know, the county for change your mind about trying to build it in our community in JFK area. The county pharmacy on 23rd, that's county property, isn't it?
Sure.
Why not build it out there? You don't have to buy any land. You already own the land, so build the county jail on county property rather than come into our neighborhood, because we have churches. And the other thing, Sunbeam Family Services, they're right in the community. And that would really take away the essence of what families and communities is all about if we were to locate that county jail in our community. You all know that, right?
Yes, ma'am.
You feel me, don't you?
We feel all of you, and we understand the community is important over
And
there.
sir, I am so tired of trying to fight for our community. Once they wanted to do eminent domain in there and just take us away. When we fought for that, and we get tired of people just dumping. That's the way it appears to us, dumping on our community. So we're here to voice. And as long as there is breath in my body, I will be here in opposition to any county jail built in our area. And I want to thank you all.
And Ms. McDaniel, we've spoken, I know Sandino and I have spoken to Councilwoman Nice,
Yes.
and she has expressed that she feels there's plenty of facilities in that area related to law enforcement, we'll say.
She said that?
Didn't she, Sandino? What'd she say? Councilwoman Nice?
Yes, tell me what she said. Please, share.
What did you say, Sandino?
I would not attempt to speak for her, but I do think that we're well aware that we have plenty of presence, I think, of police and law enforcement in Northeast Oklahoma City, that we don't necessarily need to add more to that.
I concur. Thank you.
Next is Gina Sofol something. Oh, I'm sorry.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak with you. My name is Gina Shofala. I am the principal consultant for Shofala and Associates, which is a planning and project management, program management consulting firm. But I come to you today not as a consultant, but as a citizen and resident of Northeast Oklahoma City. I am specifically here to request that this board consider looking at the existing site to meet the programming requirements. I think that you have brilliant minds that are here who can come up with a solution logistically, economically, and that one that does not impact any community. Because as I have said earlier, wherever you locate this, it's going to impact someone's community. Someone is going to be angry. someone is going to be concerned. You are now creating, in a relocation situation, you're creating um, a transportation issue. So all of the services that are necessary for the daily operations of a county jail, all of the services are here downtown. And so we have a site that certainly the existing building may not be meeting the requirements. It may be too expensive for whatever reason we are choosing for a new location. There are options, i.e., we may need to look at swing space or building in phases, and maybe taking that existing footprint and not going up 10 spaces, 10 floors, but 2 or 3 floors within the footprint that's there. Taking into consideration the existing parking as part of the footprint. Maybe adding um, vertical or garage parking. And I know all of these have economic or implications. I know that even creating swing space or temporary um, facilities so a new building could be built on that site has security issues, but it should be considered. It should not be something that we dismiss because it's going to be a complicated logistical project. And so that's really my request, is that this body, as well as the newly selected architectural firm, consider the existing site as seriously as they consider every other site, and consider the solutions, the possible solutions to build it on this site. Thank you.
I understand about the existing site. You mentioned an architect. Hey, Farouk, we need some help. So Farouk is with Reese, who's on the HOK team, and Stacy and Chantel are working on a contract with him, so he's not under contract yet. You have any thoughts about, should we look at the existing site?
I think we should look at any and all viable options and opportunities. I just don't think we know enough at this point to say, whether it's a good or bad idea. But I think, certainly if that's an option that you guys would like for us to look at, we'll dig into it.
Okay. Is there committee thoughts? Should we look at the site, existing site?
So I think we should. I think I recall just sort of very early on in this process, actually, I think before this committee got was seated, but as I was talking with individuals about this committee being stood up, that there were some preliminary conversations about existing site versus other sites, and I do think that once we have the architect on board, we can maybe do a better job of educating the public the way that I think maybe at least some of us have been educated on what kind of features would maybe be the most conducive to dealing with a lot of the challenges that we have from a correctional standpoint. Some of us accept that there will be a jail in Oklahoma County, and we're the most populous county in the state, and that the process and the experience of what that should look like should really center on diversion. It should center on mental health, and integrating those facilities. I know for me, I don't want to speak for others, is a big priority in improving what the experience is for people who have um, the need or maybe the misfortune of having to interact with the jail. So I think existing site, new sites, understanding the difference between how you can interact, how we can sort of integrate those kinds of facilities into a jail, and the fact that the jail that we currently have is wholly inadequate, and really challenging, I think, for those of us who have family and other folks who are involved with the criminal justice system. That's my interest, I know. And so whether that's existing sites or new sites, it's really important, I think, that we see a jail that integrates some things that are going to be much more humane in how we deal with people who have to interact with the criminal justice system.
Well said. Thank you, sir. Other comments from our committee? So Stacy, I think there's a sentiment to consider the existing site. And I know the county looked at the existing site a few years ago, and maybe things have changed, and none of us were present in that process. So does that make sense?
it's been looked at about 3 times since 2011 by professionals. And the consensus has always been to go to a new greenfield site to get the 1-story concept to meet some of the things Sandino talked about. You can go back and look at it again if you want to, since you weren't present for those 3 other studies. I think one was 2011, one was 2015, and one was about 18 or 19. So the 1-story concept needs 25 plus acres just for the incarceration itself, and everything around it would get us up in the 50 plus acres. And you don't have that down there. You got about 8. So that's the downside of the downtown site. But if you want to go back with a high rise,
You want a high rise here?
then you can really consider that.
Okay.
And I'd like to add, from a construction perspective, it's a lot easier to work with a greenfield than going in to try to retrofit a space, and the logistics and everything that's entailed from a construction perspective would drive the cost up. So I think we're much better off. We can review the previous analysis. I think that's fair for this body to learn about those issues, but from a purely construction perspective, it's a lot easier to go into a greenfield.
So Gina, does that satisfy your concern, or do you think we should still look at it? Okay, we're still gonna look at it.
There are some things that I did not say, and I don't think this forum is necessary to say it necessarily at this forum. But I understand that you have a programming requirement and you have to meet it, or you're trying to meet it. But it may be worth relooking at the programming. I am not suggesting that you go back with a high rise. I am suggesting that if you need 25 acres to go 1 story, maybe you look at 3 stories. And maybe the 3 stories will still meet some of the humane issues that you need. I'm not suggesting that you retrofit this existing jail. And so I realize that, yes, your cost is probably going to go up because you're going to have logistics issues. I mean, I mentioned swing space, and I use that term very loosely because it is an incarceration facility, and you do have security issues. But there may be options that need to be explored fully before you start impacting other people's community.
Yes, ma'am. That's fair. Thank you. Joanne?
The only thing that I was going to say is I'd ask everybody to take a look at new jails that have been built across the country. And if you will see how they are being built in the most recent past, you'll find that what we're proposing is not much different in the other communities, Chicago, Dallas. Just look across the country, research it for yourself to see what those designs are like, to be number one, because at the end of the day, we're trying to not only incarcerate, but we hope we do a good job of getting people in and out. And because we all know that these things affect us totally. I don't care which side of the fence you're standing on, but just look, research it for yourself to see what has currently been done in the last 3 to 5 years of jails being built across the country. And that will give you some indication of what we're dealing with.
Thank you.
Maybe it might be a good idea if we could get some kind of a summary of what the previous studies were, because I'm not familiar with that at all. Not the entire study. I'm sure there's some kind of a summary for that, and maybe that would.
I think that's a great idea, Larry. In some manner, you can repeat to us what you guys already know, Stacy and Farouk. That'd be great. Thank you. Melva Franklin, please.
Good afternoon, and thank you for allowing me to present before you. I want to thank all of you for serving in this capacity. It takes a lot of heart and a lot of effort to do these kind of community endeavors. I am a longtime resident, born and raised in Northeast Oklahoma City, and proud daughter of public servants and teachers in Oklahoma City. Mom was a teacher, dad was a firefighter, first black fire chief, in fact, in Oklahoma City. So, but I come today because really to reinforce what you've heard and what you've decided. To first of all not endanger the Northeast Quadrant, but not only the Northeast Quadrant, but the entire Oklahoma City residential area with the presence of detention center, in large part because I'm a strong community advocate, strong on community economic development. And so I think, and I feel so very much that it would be so damaging to the continued growth of Oklahoma City to miss the step on this one. It's got to be the right design. As Gina just mentioned, the programming is essential. The actual incarceration issues, concerns, of course, are of essence and must be dealt with appropriately. So most especially, I want to encourage you and echo the sentiment that you've heard, that you consider the downtown location, the existing space, consider reconfiguring not that building, but the design of that center, that institution. If it has to be 2 stories or 3 stories, then that becomes an option. The entire purpose, it seems to me, is not only to detain people who refuse to go by the rules, but to redirect them, to rehab them, to bring them back into society in the right way. And in order to do that, there has to be a system, an established system of support for those individuals. More often than not, they will require some attention, some hand holding for an extended period of time. Typically, those kinds of services come through nonprofit organizations. Nonprofit organizations typically aren't equipped financially to do expanse, long distance kinds of services. They either have to be in the presence, in the immediate space of the recipients of the service, or the recipients got to get to them. At whatever the case, those services need to be available to them, to any of us, quickly, easily, and easily accessible. So again, just want to reiterate, consider the existing space. I hope that you will, and I hope that you consider all of the impacts of where the center is located and how it's designed. Thank you.
Ms. Franklin. And you're right. I mean, I think we all recognize the other services at this facility are important.
Yeah. Palomar,
Yeah.
public strategies, all
You're
these
right.
things that are just right there.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Sure.
Roy Forsyth, please. Oh, Mr. Forsyth. Reverend Forsyth.
Good afternoon. I've been a chaplain at the Oklahoma County Jail for 16 years, a volunteer, and I'm just advocating for a jail that's all built on one level. Now, that's for all the services. You can have pods that are 2 levels where the inmates can go up and down stairs to the upper level, but the rest of it, no elevators. I can't tell you how many times I've seen the ambulance, AmCare there, waiting for an elevator to get to somebody that needs attention. That doesn't make a lot of sense. And it's the same thing. Sometimes you're waiting for the elevators. 2 of them are not working, and 1 of them is, and it's somewhere else. And so there are 15 or 20 people waiting out at the ground floor level, waiting to get to somewhere that they need to go within the jail. So I think it would be a real mistake to repeat the mistakes that were made when this jail was built. Okay.
You're right.
So
I
thank
think,
you.
You know, Mandy with the county, I saw her somewhere here, would probably agree with you. The elevators could be a problem. Yeah, you're right. Thank you, sir. Any other comments from our committee? Any other public comments? At this point, we have lots of comment time later. All right. Thanks, everyone. Okay. Discussion and possible action regarding the planning, design, management, construction of the new Oklahoma County Adult Detention Center. I'm not aware of anything we need to discuss there because we get into specifics a little bit later, if that's fine with everybody. Okay, let's talk about an architect. Stacy or Chantel?
Item 3 is a report from them.
Oh, it's a report from them. Okay.
Good afternoon. My name is Kurt Pardee. I'll be the principal in charge for our design team, which includes HOK and Reese Architects locally, along with a number of other consultants that we'll be working with. So we've been, since being selected, we've been looking at contract the last couple of weeks. Been working with Chantel and Stacy and going over the contract terms and conditions and reviewing those items. I think once we get this in place, we're ready to hit the ground running. In fact, we're ready to start, next week. And as some people have already mentioned here today, the first things that need to happen are number one, site evaluations. As you all know, you've had an RFQ out and are looking at many different pieces of property for this new facility. And so as we get on board, the first thing we will do is we will develop a matrix that compares all the different properties. And we'll look at, of course, size of the property, utilities, roadways, access, functionality, and distance to other services that impact the facility. So all those things will be a part of that process, and we'll grade those and come up with some different options for you all to help us decide on what to do, how to move forward. Clearly, there's a lot of discussion that needs to go into this selection process, and so we'll help make that as clear and open of a process as possible. I think second is evaluating the space needs. So we'll start looking at the housing needs, the adult detention center, the behavioral health center, and what those space needs need to be and what will all be in that facility. That will help us understand the square footage, the size of the building, the cost of the building, and how it will function and operate. As you may know, we've previously talked about direct supervision, changing the type of jail that you have here in Oklahoma County so that it operates better and is safer and functions much better for all of you. And as many have already said, getting away from a high-rise building certainly is something that we've talked about in the past. So as we start the programming process, we'll be looking at that and figuring out what the direction will be for the county. Early on also, we've talked about going and touring some other facilities that have recently been completed around the country. So we're getting ready to set those up. And I think, getting people to see how other counties are operating and functioning would be really helpful so that we all understand what we're talking about, as we go through. So that really probably should be one of the first things we do, so that as we start sitting down and talking about space needs and how we want this new facility to function, we understand where, what the starting point is. And if we refer to something at one of those existing facilities, that would be very helpful. So I think that's something that we want to focus on as well. I think these items I've just talked about, what we've been working on an overall project schedule for the county, and are hoping that we can do, with the work that previously had been done here, with the type of housing, the support facilities, and all that needs to be put into this, about a 4-month process for evaluating the sites, looking at the space needs, understanding the square footage of the building, and that's about what that's kind of what we're planning for now. So that's the initial project phase, is looking at that and figuring that out. Once that's done, we also will be helping the county look at CMAR and the RFQ, and helping, making any comments on that. I know the county has already prepared something, so we're involved in that process as well. Any questions on any of that? That's kind of where we are today.
Committee questions?
First of all, I want to thank you for being here present. If you're going to be the lead, it's good for you to be here at these meetings. I think that was a big factor for us. When do you anticipate working with the contractors? Is it at the 4-month mark? I'm trying to make sure we're backtracking so we have a contractor in place for you guys to work with.
Right. We work a lot with the CMAR process on design and construction projects. usually it's great to have them on board when we start schematic design. I think given this first few months of kind of establishing the parameters for this project, we can get some of those things nailed down. As soon as we get to the point where we have an idea of what our overall square footage and space needs and functionality need to be, having them on board would be very helpful. So I'd say in 3 to 4 months.
And secondly, I'll just like to comment, any site visits that we make, I think it would be wise for us to have representatives from the current jail present so that they may compare and contrast current operations against theirs, and we're able to leverage those ideas for the future design.
Great point.
Kurt, so if we take your 4 month, the question we're asked the most frequently is, when are we going to pick a site?
Mm-hmm.
Is what we're saying, if we take 4 months from now, that's end of October? Are we saying we wouldn't be ready to pick a site with your assistance till November, December?
No, we're going to be looking at sites immediately.
When
So-
would you anticipate your input will be complete so we can look at?
I think our initial analysis, the matrix that kind of does the grading process for these different properties, would be in 4 weeks.
Oh, wow.
And then I say we get input, and then we move forward. And at the same time, we'd love to jump in and start with the programming process. At the same time, we need to be doing some of these building tours. But site analysis, we understand the site needs. It's a large facility. It needs a lot of access. It needs to, have utilities and all those things. So we understand what the needs are just because we do this for a living. I mean, we do this all across the country. So it really comes down to then grading those sites and looking at what works best at each one. And then, so that won't, we have civil engineer ready, we have our local site team ready, and we have our design team ready to help us get this going. So it can happen pretty quickly.
Thank you. So that says, hopefully in August, this committee might be ready to, with your help,
Yes,
recommend a site to the Board of Commissioners?
I believe so.
Yeah. So along those lines, then, and I believe that you all were involved in some of the previous or more preliminary conversations with the county as well. Would we be essentially able to kind of incorporate the existing site as one of those sort of evaluations? Because I know that's currently not kind of, like, at least hasn't been part of what we've been looking at, but can we incorporate that into this sort of conversation?
We were part of the team that was looking at this, and we did evaluate that existing site. I think as we can certainly add that into the mix and look at it and see what rises to the top. Of course, its location, being close to downtown and the court building and other things that impact the jail, that's a strength of that site. The size is not. But we can certainly look at that and add it in.
Yeah, and I guess just from my standpoint, because this isn't the first time I've heard sort of feedback about people's thoughts on where and how we should approach this, but I just think I want to make sure we're not ignoring that because you guys have the benefit of kind of having evaluated that in the past, but it seems like the same conversations we're having about some of these other sites, we can add existing site into that. And I think that also gives a little bit of opportunity to make sure that sort of everybody is aware of sort of how those factors are being determined, particularly once we kind of get closer to being able to make a recommendation to the Board of County Commissioners.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Other thoughts from our committee? Are there any public comments on this topic? Okay, thank you. Ms. Maxwell. Franklin, I'm sorry. Sorry. Would you come up to the microphone, please?
The one thing that I didn't say before, Melva Franklin is my name, that I didn't say before, and not having any idea to what extent you guys have invested time and energy in this, but form follows function. So the programming of the jail center would seem to me to be, or the detention center, would seem to be of the utmost importance at this point. And has there been, will there be consideration of decentralizing some of the current functions of the detention center so that it can be accommodated in an area such as the space that it's in right now, with expanded services in other locations around the service to address, around the city to address some of those social, emotional, psychological, financial, economic needs.
And I would presume that's part of this HOK process, looking at the other services that are a part of this.
And are there people working with you to do that?
Yes, we have mental health people working with us. Out here is part of our firm who has done these similar type of facilities around the country.
Okay, thank you. Yes, sir.
Thank you. As we talk about the location and, where the jail currently resides, have we looked at the possibility of acquiring land adjacent to that?
No, sir.
Okay.
I think we have, Stacy.
Okay.
No, sir.
Yeah, I know the proposal period has passed for those submissions to be submitted, but I don't know if that's an opportunity to acquire additional land so that you have the needed acreage to build a single level facility. So, again, I just want to make sure that we're looking at all possible opportunities and not a knee jerk reaction because we've got land 25 acres here, there, and otherwise. But I just want to make sure we're doing our due diligence to see if we can make that structure, existing facility work. Again, just putting some thoughts out there. Again, I want to make sure that we're not getting into a situation to where you've got a community that's in upheaval because of the location. And I understand that times have some of the requirement timeframes have passed. But again, I don't know if that's an opportunity to look at acquiring additional land that's already there. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Okay. I think the next agenda item, because I don't think we have a motion or anything related to this presentation, is Stacy.
This is actually talking about the scope and fee for HOK's contract. We've been working with them for a couple of weeks on this issue. I have received some comments back from some of the board members, and I really appreciate those because that helps us get, to a better contract. What I'll do is I'll incorporate, it always starts with a fee and a proposal from the architect, and it's not a full document, but just what they intend and plan to do. So I'm incorporating their tasks into our base contract and any comments that you have into that base contract. There's already federal regs in our base contract. So all that plus the scope, the fee and the schedule will make up the contract. I've got a draft of that ready and I'll get that out to you probably later this week as well as to HOK for their review. So it'll go back and forth a few times. But any comments that you want to give, about the scope, so make sure we get incorporated, don't miss anything is very helpful. The fee, of course, is a big issue. So any feedback or comments you want to make about that, now's the time. And, hopefully over the next couple of weeks, we can ink this and get everybody put to work. That's the goal.
Thank you very much. I think that we need to make sure that the fees are commensurate with the effort. The industry is very unique. It's been around for a very long time. But I think we need to make sure that we recognize the effort that's being put forth by the architects, especially with the greenfield. There's a lot more design. It's not a cookie cutter. Once you design one jail, you just go site adapt it somewhere else. But I think we need to make sure that we're being very cognizant of average fees nationwide and make sure that we're consistent with those national figures and averages as well as regional averages. I think HOK is a big enough firm that they are open to discussing these fees. And I think we need to provide you with that information so that as you negotiate, that you're able to get us the best fee possible. But I think it needs to be a conversation with you that you can in turn have with the architectural team.
Okay. Other comments from Mr. Trumbo, our county engineer? Any comments from the public on this topic? Okay. Thanks, Stacy. I guess the next item is we're going to talk about a construction manager at risk.
Again, I've received comments back from some of you on the board, Javier particularly. We've incorporated all those comments into the document. It's up on the screen. It was attached to your agenda. I want to get some comments from HOK as well. And I think we maybe heard here today that we've got a few months before we actually need to put this on the street to meet, the schedule that everybody's looking at. So we have more time to get the comments and get this document as firm as we can. But I really appreciate the comments I've received so far, and just feel free to give me more.
Do we have a timeline for when we're trying to get this out on the street? Just to make sure we give you timely feedback.
Yeah, Chantel will need 30 days at least ahead of when HOK says we're ready to have this CMAR with us on the team. And what I just heard earlier was 3 to 4 months from now, they'll be ready for that. So we'll back that up 30 days and she'll start her procurement process.
Just one thought, as we issue the RFQs, we need to make sure that we're cognizant of holidays and summertime and all that. So maybe if we're looking at 3 or 4 months down the road, maybe we're looking at August to try to get the contractor selected.
Yeah, we like to give them as much time as possible to put their documents together, so we're not rushing them.
Perfect.
You get
I've been on the other end.
You'll get better feedback that way.
So what our goal for this committee to make a recommendation to commissioners would be in August?
I think we can get this document as ready as fast as you want to, and then Chantel will just hold it and put it on the street at the appropriate time.
I guess what I'm sensing is we'd like to make a recommendation in August. So if we get back.
No, I think we do make our recommendation earlier, but I think it's up to Stacy's team to decide the right timing to coincide with the architects.
Perfect. Okay. Other committee thoughts? Any public comments on this topic? That was easy. Thank you. Okay, we go to our next agenda item. I think there's an action. The next is a discussion of possible action regarding the next special meeting on July 25th at 1:30 in this room. What do you think?
I'd like to make a suggestion there.
Okay, you're on vacation.
No, I talked to HOK a little bit before the meeting. In order to get them contracted and under contract and working 100%, if we wait till July 25th for this board to approve that, we're into August before the BOCC sees it. So I think HOK, Chantel, and I can move faster than that. So we were talking about maybe as early as July 6th to maybe as late as July 13th, somewhere in that range, if you were willing to meet in that time frame. We would probably have a final contract for you guys to review and approve and recommend somewhere in that range. Is that correct? They're nodding yes. So,
So what's our availability in that 1 week range? 1:30 on the 13th? Pardon me? You'll be gone. Are you gone that entire week? Okay. We'll have a great trip. What about July 13th for the rest of us?
I'm available.
Let's go with that.
July 13th,
Yep.
1:30. Okay.
Do we have to take action on that, or can we just talk? Okay. Would someone make a motion for July 13th at 1:30, please?
So moved.
Is there any discussion? Let's have a vote, please. It's posted July 25th, but we mean July 13th. So we just changed the date. What do you need from us?
A vote.
A vote from you. Okay, so we're good. All right, now's our favorite topic, location. So I guess we're gonna go into executive session. I need a motion, Cassie, or can I just? Is there a second? Okay, may we vote, please? Okay, executive session. Thanks, everyone, for being here. We'll be back in a bit. Out of trouble. I have a motion from Javier, seconded by Sandino, to leave executive session.
And I also move that we end the meeting.
Second.
Can we leave, Cassie? Okay, thank you, everyone.